watching Rogers TV.
Welcome to Educate, Inform, Challenge. My name is Teresa MacLennan. I'm the Executive Director of the Women and Children's Shelter of Barrie. We are so glad that you, our community, have joined us today. As you know, the purpose of our show is to talk about the lives and experiences of women in our community. We absolutely talk about gender-based violence, human trafficking, and we also like to highlight women who are making change in our community, women in business, politics, and leadership. And so we're going to be having a great conversation with my wonderful guest today, and we really hope that you stay for the duration for that conversation. Before we begin, we do want to thank our Indigenous community, and we just honor the traditions and the culture that you bring to our community. And we really want to be allies in the spirit of reconciliation. And so thank you so much for allowing us to have these conversations on these very sacred lands. And we just appreciate all your contributions to our community. So I am thrilled today to introduce my friend. I consider her a mentor. She's a leader in our community. And so I want to introduce Genevieve, who is with the Business Professional and Professional Women's Association here in Barrie. And so welcome, Genevieve. I'm always thrilled to talk with you. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me back.
Of course, of course. And so we're going to dive into the great work that is happening with business and professional women here in Barrie and the work that they've been doing. So why don't we start, Genevieve? Do you want to just tell our viewers a little bit about yourself?
Well, I am a local entrepreneur, like you mentioned. I am the president of Marquis Benefits here in Barrie, and we recently expanded in Bracebridge and the Muskokas. So we're very excited about taking our work to our bigger than the Simcoe County area. We specialize in the management of our clients' employee benefits plans and group savings plans. And what else? I'm a mom. I'm a mom of two, I was going to say teenagers, but I now have a young adult. My oldest is now 18 and heading off to university this fall, which is going to be quite a transition in itself that we'll be facing. And then I have a 15-year-old, and I'm a wife as well. And like you mentioned, I'm a board member and immediate past president of the Business and Professional Women's Group of Barrie.
So you are extremely busy, obviously. And, you know, as most of us and women going through a lot of change that happens in our life, there's transition that happens in our lives. And then, of course, the transitions of our family around us that impacts us too, right? So I know that there's going to be lots of women and men who are listening today who are probably feeling that pain of the transitions that you're going through, right? And then it creates a whole new chapter of our lives, right? So thank you so much for sharing that. So let's dive into talking about business and professional women. And so I really want to start with a little bit about you and why has your participation in that group been important to you personally?
Well, personally, what drew me to the organization 7 years ago was that I was going to be meeting working women in my community. Because this group isn't about just business owners. It really is about working women. And what I also enjoyed about the group was the focus on advocacy. That was interesting to me. I'm raising young men, right? And I take that role very seriously and how I want them to be as men in society today, right? And what BPW does, it allows me to also have an outlet, an avenue to focus on women's issues, right? And engaging in conversation and action that will bring change and continue to push forward issues that mean a lot to me. And I'm not alone in this, just not here, just locally, but beyond. And that was really what the group was to me from the very beginning.
And I just really have to kind of capture something that you said early on before we talk more about BPW. Certainly here at our shelter, our work is violence against women, and women have been using their voices forever to talk about gender-based violence, gender inequity, right? And I love what you said about raising good men. And because we know women have been using our voices forever to say, hey, we need to change here. But we equally need the voice of good men who come alongside women as well. And I love hearing parents talk about how they're consciously thinking about raising good men. We're sort of moving off of these statements about boys will be boys.
No.
No, boys
Yeah,
will be
no.
boys will be good humans, right?
Correct.
So
I
anyway,
totally
I just
agree.
yeah, right. So I commend you because I think that is just a really nice thing to be said about a conscious decision about how do we think about raising boys. But anyway, so that's a whole nother conversation that you
Yes.
and I think that we could have. Coming back to a BPW, so let's talk about that. What is the goal or the mandate of BPW?
So BPW is in many ways about connection. It's about growth, positive change, and voice, a voice at all levels. We're talking about local, provincial, national, and international. And our membership model is comprised of four cornerstones. That's where my French gets in the way. I'm going to say funny names sometimes. Cornerstones. Learn, advocate, lead, and collaborate. So those are our four. So if I dive into what those four are, when I think of learn, I think of the formal and informal component. Formal is our monthly meetings with our speakers, our conferences, our mentoring programs, the special events we participate in. That's more of the formal. The informal would be the sharing, the learning from our diverse group of women that are part of our membership. Because that's one thing that I really found interesting was going into a room with women of different generations, different working experiences, occupations, life experiences, not just work, but life experiences, and where that informal sharing and support really is found. So that's the learning piece. Under advocate, because we have access to current information on issues affecting women. We use that information and that knowledge, and we lobby through resolutions, letters, briefs to governments of all levels, right? And BPW Canada has consultative status at the United Nations. So to me, being part of that organization and seeing things going forward, going up the chain is maybe another way of seeing it. The third is lead. So not only within our organization, we try to build leadership skills within our membership, but how do we apply those things we learn and bring it back to our jobs, our careers, our households? Maybe that's our political roles or our, being on a board. And lastly, collaborate, like-minded women, allies, and that I love the way that model was set up for our organization.
And I've had the privilege of, well, I feel like I've known you for many years now, really, right? You and I've known each other and had the privilege of coming to meetings, speaking at your meetings before. And it is such an eclectic group of women that come from all different spheres of life, and a very active and forward thinking group for sure. And so the question I want to ask you just before we kind of head into a break is, why do you think BPW is helpful to a community?
First off, I think it's continuing the tradition of empowering women. Bottom line, right? We're making space, making sure we're continuing to do the work. We work closely as supporters to our local partners, right? Our community partners, and like the Women and Children's Shelter, and others would be, actually what we did this year was to focus on local more and more. This past April, we held a local commendation event where we honored 3 organizations led by passionate women here in our community that were really making a difference. So one of the 3 that we honored were Linda Reed from Dress for Success, Barrie and Aurelia, Barbara White and Marianne Frith from Ripple of Kindness, Barrie, and Shaniqua Edwards from Shaq's World. These are the things that we can do to bring attention, not just locally, but then elevate that at the provincial and national level. And we really want to continue to be an ally to our community partners.
Yeah, for sure. And so when you think about the benefits to the participants of, BPW, if I was to join, what would be the benefit to me? Like, what would I gain from participating in that group?
So being part of our group really provides you with a community of women that are like-minded, that are looking for, it could just simply be the support. It could be learning leadership skills, learning from our speakers, right? Because we're providing a platform for education. And then, of course, advocacy, being involved in moving that goalpost 1 yard at a time, right? How do we get involved in moving our issues forward? And also finding a community within it, finding people that will help you in your journey, right? Your working journey.
Mm-hmm. I should imagine, and I know that you aren't solely about business women, but if you are a new entrepreneur, or you are, or you've been a businesswoman for a while, what would be the benefit to you in terms of the collaboration and the connection amongst all the other women that are at the table?
Absolutely, and I think what's been great for me is it's a networking, but not so networking in the traditional sense, because you're making connections. So, and that you don't have to do it alone, and you have a resource within our group, right? So those are the things that I think is really great from a business perspective.
Perfect. So we're just going to take a short break, and then we're going to come back. We're going to dive in more, and we're just going to talk about how women's experiences, business and professional women, has changed over the years. Stay with us, and we will be right back.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Clubs, leagues, and courts in every province and territory across Canada, squash is the sport for wall-to-wall fun, fitness, and friendship. From coast to coast to coast. Learn to play, and you'll want to do it every day. Squash. Play inside the box.
You're watching an interesting local show on Rogers TV and you want to know more. That's when you head to RogersTV.com. Our website provides more information about our programs, our hosts, our schedule, and about how you too can get involved with Rogers TV. Visit us online at RogersTV.com.
Welcome back to Educate, Inform, and Challenge. Having a great discussion with my friend Genevieve from the Business and Professional Women's group here in Barrie, but also, provincially and globally. And so we're just really excited to have this conversation with the work that they're doing. We're going to just pick up, and I'm curious, Genevieve, how do you feel that the work and the advocacy of the group has changed, since the beginning? How have you had to morph and evolve in terms of what those things look like?
I think what most people don't realize is that our organization was established in 1930. Right? The Canadian and Canada was a founding member of BPW International. And so when you think of that history, back then we were focusing on women's right to vote, to be educated, to work alongside men. Our chapter in Barrie was established in 1946, right? So now we're coming out of the war. Women are being told to go back home, and to leave their jobs, right? And so a group of women here in our community started meeting regularly, and they joined the BPW Federation. And I think from that point on, even at a local level, you could see where the movement went. And today we're focusing on reproductive rights again, because that's continuing to be something we need to support and validate. Intimate partner violence, right? You are, an expert in speaking on that topic and how relevant and how it is an epidemic. We are advocating for that. Senior women's issues as well, right? We have an aging population, and those women have certain needs that need to be met. And of course, one of the biggest one is gender pay equity, right? And so recently, you probably know about the Equal Pay Coalition. They publish every year the Equal Pay Day, right? And that day symbolizes how far into the new year the average woman must work just to earn the same as an average man. And I was shocked this year. In 2024, it was April 16th. And just a year before is April 6th. We lost 10 days in that, and that still shocks me. I'm still shocked right now talking to you. And so it's still such an important key thing that we need to do and move forward in our advocacy.
A lot of people will say to me, they'll say, are women still being abused? Like, I didn't think that was happening. Folks will say to me, haven't we taken care of this, gender inequity across the board sort of stuff? And before I, break out into laughter, when I go to respond, I have to catch myself. And of course, it's a teachable moment to try and educate that person that I'm speaking with. And it can be shocking that folks truly believe that we have reached equity with regards to so many things. It's surprising, right? And so I'm so appreciative of the history that you spoke about the foundation, or the Federation, the work that you've done historically that has really changed over time with what's happening, at different moments in history. Right. Where we need to focus on different things now, right? And so many of the issues, though, are still exactly the same.
Yeah.
That pay gap between men and women. I think women make 70 cents on every dollar that men make. We just have so far to go. So I am so appreciative of the work that, your group is doing, because we do need to have the voice that just keeps moving it forward. It's the only way change is going to happen whatsoever, with regards to any of the women's issues that, we've talked about already today. So I guess maybe a mute question here, but has it become easier for women that want to venture into business?
In many ways, I'm positive and I'm optimistic, and I say yes. There's still a lot of more work to be done, and in different ways, right? Different perspectives, different industries will have different challenges. And actually, I wanted to give you an example of the gender wage gap because we just wrapped up our provincial conference last week for BPW Ontario. And one of the resolutions that we have approved and is going forward is on the gender pay gap in medicine. And so one of our groups from North Toronto did some in-depth research for this resolution, following many studies that have been published on this. And it is showing us that even though OHIP pays the same rate of services, right, in the medicine, there's a pay gap of 22.5%. And that for female doctors. And that could be related to less referrals for surgery, receiving less operating room time. And so that's this year, based on research of the last few years, where we're seeing this, where you think there would be protections in place here. And so, but when you dive into these studies, you're finding these inequities. And so we've put our brief will be presented to the government of Ontario and the relevant ministers to address this. And as a business owner, so that's one component. As a business owner, and, you know, I think of my fellow women entrepreneurs and people that women-led startup businesses, and I think of raising capital and investments for their new ventures. And I still, in conversations with, you know, people in the financial systems and the institutions, I still believe there's still some heavy barriers and biases on providing proper funding for women-led business. And, you know, I would like that to continue to improve and push forward. And I think we've got some good people in there pushing that forward. And I'd like to see that be, you know, easier, maybe is maybe a simpler word, but easier for women, less obstacles to get the funding, to get their business off the ground, right? So those are the two things.
Yeah, and that was going to be my next question. And you talked a little bit about that, about what do you see those hurdles to be that women still have to try and get over to be counted in, to be successful, to be counted equal, you know, in what they're doing, right? And so are there any other hurdles? And I also wonder about just the hurdle about the self-doubt that a lot of women can carry just based from a historical perspective. That's not usually what we do or we're supposed to do, right? There's been very clearly defined gender roles for men and women for many years. And I feel that women are breaking the glass ceiling up to that every single day. Yeah. But even for ourselves, our own hurdles can be the self-talk that happens in our head that says, I can't do it.
I totally agree, because we all are coming into our working career or any career with some predisposed, you know, unconscious biases as well, right? Some of our own little self-doubts or uncomfortable, you know, maybe some traumas or maybe some perceived barriers. Outside of where the institution, where those barriers exist, there's also that personal journey. And I really do think my journey, even into entrepreneurship, being a woman leader in my business, was a long journey. I mean, I became an entrepreneur 20 years into my career. And it took very different roads and self-discovery, because we are dealing with relationship, your childbearing years, raising children. So you're really at a position where women have to take on a lot more, but I really believe in that partnership approach, right? So I'm really optimistic that more and more couples are doing this as partners. So it is not simply on our shoulders, and definitely doing that in my household and showing that example through my children as well as they mature and be engaged in their relationship. But we're all dealing with that self-care, that journey into what you're comfortable with too. So, I took a very hard look at if I was risk averse. Yes, I was very risk averse in my 20s and 30s, and took the time I needed to find my passion and to find the job that I really enjoyed doing, and took the leap at that point. And there's no right or wrong way, right, to move forward.
I love that. And it's so encouraging for anyone who's listening. I often, when I speak about my own journey, about even the position that I hold now, I'm really open and honest in saying I took the long route. You know that game of life. You go to university or you don't, you work up the ladder or you don't, or, you take different paths. And truly, I feel like I took the long route. And, but when I look at that, I think about all the lessons and the learning and the experiences and growth, the ups and the downs and everything that happened on that path. We're part of the process.
Absolutely.
And, and working through self-doubt, which still trickles in my head, and I have to do a lot of self-talk about, okay, give your head a shake, where you're at. And everything that you talked about just makes me so aware of the importance of business and professional women, because I think about how you support and mentor all women who are involved in business, professional women of different areas, right? The importance of coming together and mentoring and supporting and advocating for other women and each other is such a key role in our community. And I'm just so thankful that you're there, because I really, really am, right? And I hope that, and I know anyone that's listening, I'm sure feels the same way, especially a woman who may be thinking of, stepping into her own business and what that looks like. So we've got a couple of minutes left, Genevieve. And so I want to give you the last word, because I know that there are women that listen to and watch our show. In 30 seconds, what would be those words of magical advice that you would like to give to her?
Well, one, join us. We are a great group of women that I really found great connection with, because I find in this journey, making connections and lifting each other up should be number 1 and 2. I think we move that, like I mentioned, that goalpost further together. And I really want to say that it is a journey that you learn from each step, and that every step forward, there might be some step backs, but you're learning from those hardships or difficulties, and that reward, you just keep moving forward. And I'm just really excited to be part not only of the working community, but also engaging in advocating for women's issues. So
perfect place to end. And thank you to our community for joining us today. And we will see you next time on Educate, Inform, and Challenge. Take care.